All right, getting ready for week 3 of Georgia Southern. Coach, will reflect a little bit back as you reviewed the tape from Liberty on Saturday. What were you most pleased with from your guys?
Well, I was pleased that we competed for 60 minutes in the game. That was, I think I was most impressed with that. You know, when people watch our football team, I mean, we want them to say, hey, these guys are fast, they're physical, they're tough, they're disciplined, and they will compete. And we did those things in the game. We weren't always perfect. It wasn't pretty all the time, but they did those things. And I appreciate, our players for doing that. We got a lot of things we can clean up. We've got to get to where we're more consistent, on both sides of the ball and in the kicking game. But if you play with those kinds of intangibles, you're going to have a chance to win the game. And I think, these guys, they went out and did that.
Share some thoughts on Georgia Southern. Obviously, they've been in California the last 2 weeks, but you've had a chance to watch both of their games.
Well, first of all, let me say this about Georgia Southern. It is, they have a great program, a lot of tradition. They've had a lot of great football coaches there. They got a great football coach right now in Clay Helton. I've known Clay since the early 90s. He is a phenomenal offensive football coach, phenomenal head coach, but he is he's done a really good job everywhere he's been, and he's one of the best people in this business. That says anything. I got great respect for his father, who was also a coach. I got great respect. I worked with his brother at Tennessee. They're just solid people, and he's done a really good job. They've had a really challenging schedule. They've been in California. They played Fresno State the opening week, came back and played USC, so they had to stay out there. That was challenging for his team, and they put up some good numbers, in some spots. So they're going to be very well coached. And the thing our players got to understand, we're going to Statesboro, Georgia. It's one of the toughest places to play in college football. I think it's like the 4th highest winning percentage at home of any college in FBS. So it's a huge challenge for us. So, but we're looking forward to the challenge.
All right, we'll open it up to questions. We'll start up front with Max.
First off, happy belated birthday. Hope that went well. But just,
Thank
we talked about it a bit on Saturday, but kickoff, just kind of looking back through film, what did you see that maybe allowed, and maybe is it the scheme that they really couldn't get anything on returns ever. They, some of that might have been with Vip, but just kind of, what is the strategy there, and just how did they execute that, and how do you keep that going
Well,
forward?
I think first of all on the kickoffs, it all starts with where the kick placement is. So that's number one. The only time we didn't place it right, it went out of bounds, and I wasn't really happy with that. But for the most part, we put the ball where we needed to put it, and then Max did a good job of scheming how they were trying to return, and we think players first and plays second. So number one, Gray, he's a good return guy, and we knew how he liked to return and kind of what his characteristics were. So we tried to, create things that would make him do something that he didn't want to do. And I think Max did a good job with that. But you got to give our guys credit on the kickoff team. They were fast getting down the field. We had everybody on the kickoff. Most people were inside the 30-yard line or at least inside the 35 when the ball was caught. When you do that, it makes it tough on the kickoff return team.
Others? Mark?
Could you talk about how Gavin has played the first 2 games? Because it seemed like he had an especially good game on Saturday.
Very good game. And what I've asked Gavin is the most important thing for a quarterback is his decision making. That's the most important thing. And, you got to be able to take what the defense gives you. You can't force things. We've had 1 turnover in 2 games, and that's our first thing we talk about is protecting the ball. And people want to look at raw statistics and say, well, we didn't throw the ball for this much. Well, what they were giving us, we were able to run the ball. But when we needed a completion, we had a couple of drops early in the game on 3rd down. The ball was thrown right where it needed to be, but there were 2 third downs where he completed a ball to Caleb, across the middle that were huge plays in that game. It changed field position. It kept us on the field. And those are the kinds of things that you don't really see in the statistics. But for what we want, our quarterback to do, I thought he did a really good job. And, it'll be the same way this week. You're going to have to take what they're going to give you. They're going to give us opportunities to throw the ball, put an extra guy in the box. We're going to drop back, throw it, and execute it. So that's what we have to do. But I'm proud of, and I think he's becoming a better leader, because, I challenged him last week. Hey, the way you move is the way everybody else is going to move. And I felt like you could see that in the offense this past week.
Can you give us an update on Michael Petway?
Yeah, we, Pet practiced all last week, working hard to get back. We're going to do the same thing this week. I just didn't think he was quite there. I don't want to put him out there too early and have him re-injure. I don't think he'll be in danger of that, but we want to make sure that he's 100% or closest to it as he can be but he'll practice today, and we'll observe him and make a decision towards the end of the week.
Coach, you've had two pretty big plays on special teams in each game, the fake punt against UCF, obviously the field position last week. Where did that emphasis on special teams come from during your career? Obviously, you've been in charge of that quite a bit, but where did you first learn of that emphasis?
I probably learned – I'd always been, as a defensive backs coach early in my career and running backs coach, I was always a part of working with some part of special teams. But I think it was probably in, 2006 when I was hired by Chan Gailey as the special teams coordinator at Georgia Tech. I probably learned more about the management of the game and how special teams affects the game than any other time in my career. I made the point last night on the, in the radio show that this is what people don't, not that they don't get, but they don't think about it like this on special teams. I've told the players, if we punt 5 times in a game and we average 40 yards a punt, that's 200 yards in a game. If Cam Cook runs for 200 yards in a game, he's going to be player of the week, which he was this week. It's the same amount of yards. You're just punting it instead of running it. But in a game, it's still yardage. So if you can gain 200 yards, that's an advantage for us. And I think our guys understand the importance of field position. But, 1 out of every 6 plays is a special teams play in a football game. So what I try to do is take 1 out of every 6 minutes in practice and work on special teams because it is that important. And our players know it's important. I mean, our entire team is in here. When we talk special teams, when we have our final special teams meeting, even the quarterbacks are in here. So they understand how the game, is managed through that. But probably I learned more with Coach Gailey than any. And he had been a prior special teams coordinator with the Denver Broncos, so he helped me a lot too.
Third row to Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
4 sacks Saturday, 6 on the season. What have been some of the keys to generating that pressure?
I think Xavier's done a good job, and Bert with our front guys. We do feel like we have some guys. I think Gavin will tell you we got some guys that can pressure the quarterback, and I think when we can make them hold the ball a little bit, we got to cover a little bit better in spots to, make the quarterback hold the ball, buy some time. But when we've done that, we've been able to get pressure. We missed a couple of sacks in the first game, and in fact, 2 of the big plays that have happened, when the back got loose at South Florida, now we got to cover him better. Don't get me wrong. It's not an excuse for that. But we missed a sack there. And then Saturday we had an unblocked guy running at the quarterback and missed a sack there. But I do think our guys have confidence in rushing the quarterback. We got to be a little bit more disciplined in the rush lane so guys can't run out. But I think if we can make them hold the ball a little bit longer, we should be able to get some more. I think personnel. I think the guys you just mentioned, Emmanuel, he's a talented guy, and he's just only going to get better. Tay Floyd really got some pass rush ability. He's starting to I'm really excited about Tay because he is bought into making his whole game. He's not just a pass rusher now. He's trying to understand, all the parts of playing the run, playing first and second down. But I think he's a talented guy that can – anytime you got those guys, it makes you better up front.
I think when you mentioned Georgia Southern, I think a lot of people in this state think of your former boss's rant. Obviously, you weren't there for that game or the rant, but did he ever talk about, that game back in, I guess, 2011 or whenever it was, when Georgia Southern just ran through Bama?
Well, yeah, I was there. I wasn't there with him, but actually the next year we went over. I was coaching at Georgia Tech, and we went up. Coach Saban had us come over there. Me and Al Groh. Al Groh was our defensive coordinator, and we went over there and talked option football with Coach. Coach had a lot of respect for that offense and what it did, but I mean, that was one of the best defenses to have ever played in college football. And Georgia Southern, they had a hard time stopping them. But Coach had great respect for what they did as a staff. And, listen, they were an option football team for a long time. Irk Russell's the one that started it. When he became the head coach there, he hired Paul Johnson, and they wanted to get out of the wishbone. And so it wasn't really the wishbone. They just moved the halfbacks up to the slot, but it was still the same plays. And then Coach Burgess and Coach Maniscalco did the same thing here. We were the same style offense, and it was hard. It's hard to defend, and it's probably a little bit harder nowadays. You can still run it, and it's still very effective. It's a little bit different these days because of the rules on offense. You can't cut block in the perimeter, and that was always the toughest thing, man. When you go down there, you would get rolled up in a hurry. But yeah, it's those guys. Like I said, Georgia Southern's got great tradition. They've had a lot of great football coaches. One of my best friends, of course, I've worked for Paul Johnson, great head football coach, one of the, best offensive minds I've ever been around. Jeff Munkin, one of my best friends, who's head coach at Army right now, he was there, had the same type success. And, Clay, it's a little bit different style offense, which is okay, but he's good at what he does. And that's the thing. Doesn't matter what you do on offense, you got to be good at what you do.
Through first two games, what you had seen of fall camp, anybody that's taken a step that maybe you didn't see that in fall camp, that since the lights have gone on, that they've been different?
I think, and I kind of knew this because I know how he's wired, but I think the players will tell you too. Thaxton Gallagher, he's played really. He just brings a toughness to your team. Like when you got a guy like that on your team, you just tend the whole team seems to be that way. And we saw the toughness. But I'd never seen him play. Offensively, it's pretty much what I expect. I think the offensive line, because everybody talked about them being young. I think they've done a good job of growing up in a hurry. Coaches always had to play, young guys. Max Sanders has shown up at linebacker. Corey Bendoff on special teams. Some of the plays he made on kickoff the other day. Those guys those freshmen that are learning, they're getting a little bit right now. By the end of the year,
Division I program. Miles Butler was not a Division I school. We hear about all the the transfer portal and everything. What's leading to success for guys like that are coming from NAIA schools? Or whatever?
You think about, our director of player development is a perfect example. He went to school at Jax State, Division II. He went to San Francisco 49ers, maybe the greatest team to ever play in the NFL, and became a starter. Doesn't matter where you play. You can't help, where you're playing at. You evaluate the player. Miles was at Campbellsville last year, and we try to evaluate just the player. There's certain criteria that we look for in players. Whether it be a DB, there's certain size we want, certain speed. Can they tackle? Can they play the ball in the deep part of the field? Same thing at linebacker, same thing at quarterback. And I've worked with coaches before when we evaluated people. You know, they say, well, they're not playing against great competition. Well, they can't help who they're playing against. You just judge them for what they do, and that's kind of what our model is, because there's so much misinformation out there. You know, a lot of times, well, just because a guy. I mean, Caleb and Gavin both, they've been at big time Division I programs, and they'll tell you there are a lot of guys here that are a lot better players than some of the guys from where they came from. You know, it's just the way it is.
Last call for questions. Austin?
Coach, you mentioned Caleb Kums, and in a game that everybody's going to talk about, the run game, you mentioned his crucial catches on third down. Can you just talk about a little bit what he's shown you since summer, since fall, and how he's progressed to earn those reps against guys like, you know, Brock Rexsteiner, who's been a mainstay here at Jax State?
Right. Well, you know, and he and Brock play a different position. You know, Caleb plays in the slot, and Brock's playing outside, so they're on the field same time. But the thing, what I like about Caleb is he really hasn't said much. He does, you know, he's not a loud guy. You don't even know he's there. He just goes out and does his job. But he can find openings, you know, whether he's in man-to-man, he knows how to slip guys. He's got a knack for getting open. When people play zone coverage, he can find that open zone. He understands the game, you know. And he's come in here and asked for one thing, just, hey, I want an opportunity, took advantage of his opportunity. And, you know, the more guys that we have that our quarterbacks can develop confidence in, listen, it's like a coach. If I know what I'm going to get from a player, it's a lot easier to call plays, you know. And the same thing for a quarterback. If I know the guy's going to be in the right spot, it's a lot easier for me to anticipate things. So it's kind of worked together. But I think on his part, he's just worked and been one of those guys.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Guys, for both of you to start with, game 1 to game 2, sometimes it's usually the biggest jump that you make as a team during your season. For each of you guys on your side of the ball, what were the big improvements that you saw, Gavin on offense, Caleb on defense, from week 1 to week 2?
For offense, I'd say one of the biggest improvements I saw was just finishing drives. I thought we did a good job. You know, defense did a great job of putting us in good positions to get the ball. But I think we executed well in finishing drives, and also on third down, continuing drives and staying on the field. So.
Yeah, I think for defense, I would say for the whole unit, the game kind of slowed down for us. We were able to communicate more. Now, we still have some ways to go as far as communication and making sure the whole defense is on the same page, but that'll get better as the season goes. But that was a definite, clear step that we made. We didn't have a ton of guys with a lot of snaps and, game experience. So just each week we expect that to get better and better, and just continue communicating, tackling, and just flying around.
All right, we'll open up to players' questions. We'll start with Max up front.
Gavin, kind of just like a game like this where you only throw 12 passes, how do you kind of balance that, knowing like you probably want the ball in your hand, but obviously the run game had that much success? Just how do you kind of balance that in your head?
I say that it's really just having a team mindset. We're playing the game to win, and at that point we know running the ball is giving us the best chance to win. So you can't be mad at all. Cam Cook's running like that. I'd give it to him too. So you can't be mad at all. Just keep doing your job, dominating your box, and that's really just it. Just doing my job and what's best for the team. So.
Mark?
Even with only 12 pass attempts, you had those 2 big third down completions that coaches raved about. Talk about the satisfaction of, even though you didn't throw for a lot of yards, you threw in some instances where you guys really had to have it.
I think it was really important because during the game, with us not throwing the ball as much, you can. If I was thinking like that, somebody could get frustrated, like, oh, we're not throwing the ball, and then just leave me in a spot not to take advantage of those opportunities. But I was, again, just thinking, we're doing what's best for the team, and how can I do my job to help us win. And that was part of it, just those 2 big third down conversions, and just dominate my box and trying to do my job. So
Back up front to Max.
Caleb, you obviously got a lot of famous football families. Just kind of, what is it being, Bo Nix's brother, Patrick Nix's son? Just kind of, or how do you have you maybe embraced that over the years?
A lot of people ask me kind of, what it's like, and really, I don't know anything else. My whole life, my dad was, a successful quarterback, successful coach, and then, Bo's 3 years older than me, and he's always been, great at, whatever sport he was playing. So it was always, you're kind of known as his little brother. But, they both have, just let me kind of have my own journey, and they've always been supportive. Like I played quarterback in high school. Obviously now I'm, taking a different route. So that's been kind of a neat journey to kind of be the first one to play defense, and, be on the other side of it. But, it's really cool to have 2 people that, have so much experience and, like firsthand experience of the game that they can share to you, and just being able to watch, or not watch my dad's journey, but watch Bo's journey and, be a fan of his has been really cool too.
Caleb, you guys have been on the field for some long drives and forced field goal attempts or held to 3 on those. What's kind of the mentality as you're facing that 10th, 11th, 12th play of the drive to be able to get off the field?
Yeah, Coach Williams says all the time that we have to defend every blade of grass. And so that's really just kind of our mantra once those drives get going, and you'll hear guys on the field saying it, just kind of reminding, like, hey, every blade of grass. Like, yeah, it's that 8th, 9th, 10th play, the drive, but you just got to keep playing every play. That's what we've said as a defense. Like, every one of our touchdowns that we've given up have been, big explosive plays. So we just got to keep, making offenses keep snapping the ball. Every time they snap the ball, it gives us a chance. So that's the main thing. Just keep making them snap the ball.
Austin?
Yeah, Gavin, you broke the plane for the first time as a Gamecock this past Saturday. We all saw the celebration. You looked pretty excited out there. What kind of emotions were going through your head and your mind when you crossed the plane and you scored?
Just excitement, really. After a good drive, to finish it off that way, give us a bigger lead was always good, and just having fun out there really with my teammates. Because it's a hard game, and a lot of times we can forget to have fun. And at the end of the day, it's a kid's game, so just have fun with it, and it's just excitement really right there.
Time for one more.
For both players, Saturday was Coach Kelly's first win as a head coach. Did you guys have a chance to acknowledge that in any way after the game, or was it even on your minds?
Yeah, we acknowledged after the game. Mr. Seitz, the AD, was in the locker room, was able to present Coach Kelly with the game ball, and we all, were celebrating with him and messing around at his first game. But it was a lot of our first wins here, Jax State. So it was a big day, and it's first of many for Coach Kelly for sure.
Yeah, I think they showered him with Gatorade or water, one of those. But yeah, we all kind of celebrated in the locker room. Just congratulate him on his first win here, and again, like Caleb said, a lot of our first wins here, and more to come. So.
Actually, Max, you got one more.
Yeah.
Kind of on that, just what was it like coming out here for the first time and just experiencing game day up here?
I thought it was great. I thought the atmosphere was great. I like, my favorite thing about our stadium is how close it is, and it's kind of really intimate. You can see the fans right there in the stands, and I think it's great. It was just great to get out there, play at home in front of our fans. So.
For me, I'm just getting used to this Jacksonville State second quarter rain delay that we got going on. I'm just kidding. No, it was an awesome atmosphere, even after the rain. It was still a great atmosphere, and so I'm looking forward to another. I've never been to Georgia Southern, but everybody says it's a really fun place to play, so that'll be our third fun atmosphere, unique game. But yeah, it was awesome playing here, and it was a great atmosphere.
So we lead the country in weather delays. What do you guys, are you listening to music? Are the coaches, are y'all in meetings? What are you doing during that time of the delay?
We both times have kind of treated it as halftime for the first little bit, like you're making adjustments, you're watching the film, but it's so much different just because you have no idea how long you're going to be in there. So both weeks after a certain point, Coach Kelly's, let us take our pads off, kind of reset because we are going to be in there for so long. And yeah, you're just kind of sitting there, and then you're making adjustments, and then eventually you're just kind of sitting and, talking about the game, just trying to stay loose. And, we were in there for about an hour, so you just can't be too tight, but at the same time, you have to stay locked in for the game. So it is a unique circumstance.
Awesome. Guys, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.